Good morning. So, we're trying something different today. Since my phone storage is full, I'm going to try and record from my laptop. So, all right, hopefully this works. We're September 25th, 2025, 2024. And we have a little bit of commentary. Opposition to temple's construction from 536 BC until 522 BC, work on the temple comes to a halt. The opposition of Israel's enemies is in part the problem, but another part is the priority given by the settlers to building their own houses and preparing the land for crops. The record of the opposition contains various correspondence between Israel's enemies and the Persian leaders by whom the resettlement is being permitted. The first formal accusation against Israel is apparently lodged during the reign of Cambyses, who took control of the Persian Empire when his father Cyrus died in 530 BC. Like his father, Cambyses is basically a good man. He is an apt ruler during his 7-year reign. He is referred to in this brief account as Xerxes, a name which applies to his position and is not to be confused with a later Persian ruler better known by that name. We have one verse from Ezra 4:6, 529 to 520 BC. At the beginning of the reign of Xerxes, they lodged an accusation against the people of Judah and Jerusalem. Back to commentary, there is no indication that Cambyses takes an official action to stop the reconstruction program. In 525 BC, he leads his forces into Egypt and takes Memphis from Pharaoh Amasis and his son Psamtik II. This Persian dominance must surely be at least the beginning of the fulfillment of the many prophecies concerning Egypt's fall. Egypt will come under complete domination during the next 6 years. While Cambyses is involved in the Egyptian campaign, back home his half-brother Smerdis has been killed by Cambyses' aides to prevent any chance of a coup. However, a Mede by the name of Guamata, claiming to be Smerdis, does in fact lead a revolt and rules for about 10 months in 522 BC. It is this pseudo-Smerdis to whom the historical record evidently refers as Artaxerxes in the following account of the letters between the local commanding officer and this usurper. Again, there should be no confusion between this titular name and the better known Artaxerxes to come 60 years later. So Ezra 4:7 by around 522 BC, and in the days of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabeel, and the rest of his associates wrote a letter to Artaxerxes. The letter was written in Aramaic script and in the Aramaic language. Rehum, the commanding officer, and Shimshai, the secretary, wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes, the king, as follows. Rehum, the commanding officer, and Shimshai, the secretary, together with the rest of their associates, the judges and officials over the men from Tripolis, Persia, Erech, and Babylon, the Elamites of Susa, and the other people whom the great and honorable Ashurbanipal deported and settled in the city of Samaria and elsewhere in Trans-Euphrates. This is a copy of the letter they sent him. To King Artaxerxes, from your servants, the men of Trans-Euphrates. The king should know that the Jews who came up to us from you have gone to Jerusalem and are rebuilding that rebellious and wicked city. They are restoring the walls and repairing the foundations. Furthermore, the king should know that if this city is built and its walls are restored, no more taxes, tribute, or duty will be paid. and the royal revenues will suffer. Now, since we are under obligation to the palace, and it is not proper for us to see the king dishonored, we are sending this message to inform the king, so that a search may be made in the archives of your predecessors. In these records you will find that this city is a rebellious city, troublesome to kings and provinces, a place of rebellion from ancient times. That is why this city was destroyed. We inform the king that if this city is built and its walls are restored, you will be left with nothing in Trans-Euphrates. The king's reply. The king sent this reply to Rehum, the commanding officer, Shimshai, the secretary, and the rest of their associates living in Samaria and elsewhere in Trans-Euphrates. Greetings. The letter you sent us has been read and translated in my presence. I issued an order and a search was made, and it was found that this city has a long history of revolt against kings and has been a place of rebellion and sedition. Jerusalem has had powerful kings ruling over the whole of Trans-Euphrates, and taxes, tribute, and duty were paid to them. Now issue an order to these men to stop work, so that this city will not be rebuilt until I so order. Be careful not to neglect this matter. Why let this threat grow to the detriment of the royal interests? As soon as the copy of the letter of King Artaxerxes was read to Rehum and Shimshai, the secretary, and their associates, they went immediately to the Jews in Jerusalem and compelled them by force to stop. Thus the work on the house of God in Jerusalem came to a standstill until the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. We have a short commentary. No sooner has the order to stop construction has been given than there is a shake-up in the Persian power structure. When Cambyses dies near Mount Carmel, possibly by suicide, a distant relative named Darius moves against Guamata and assumes control of the empire here in 522 BC. Darius moves quickly to pull together his shaky kingdom and creates a code of laws to be enforced throughout his empire. It is not surprising, then, that under circumstances soon to appear, Darius is receptive to a plea by the people of Israel to be permitted to continue work on the temple. The issue is raised when the prophets Haggai and Zechariah defy the earlier order of Guamata. Ezra 5, verse 1, around 522-521 BC. Now Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the prophet, descendant of Iddo, prophesied to the Jews in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel, who was over them. Then Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, son of Jozadak, set to work to rebuild the house of God in Jerusalem, and the prophets of God were with them, helping them. At that time, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates went to them and asked, "Who authorized you to rebuild this temple and restore the structure?" They also asked, "What are the names of the men constructing this building?" But the eye of their God was watching over the elders of the Jews, and they were not stopped until a report could go to Darius and his written reply be received. This is a copy of the letter that Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates, the officials of Trans-Euphrates, sent to King Darius. The report they sent him read as follows: To King Darius, cordial greetings. The king should know that we went to the district of Judah, to the temple of the great God. The people are building it with large stones and placing the timbers in the walls. The work is being carried on with diligence and is making rapid progress under their direction. We questioned the elders and asked them, "Who authorized you to rebuild this temple and restore the structure?" We also asked them their names, so that we could write down the names of their leaders for your information. This is the answer they gave us: "We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding that the temple that was built many years ago, one that a great king of Israel built and finished. But because our fathers angered the God of heaven, he handed them over to Nebuchadnezzar the Chaldean, king of Babylon, who destroyed this temple and deported the people to Babylon. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree to rebuild this house of God. He even removed from the temple of Babylon the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to the temple in Babylon. Then King Cyrus gave them to a man named Sheshbazzar, whom he had appointed governor, and he told him, "Take these articles and go and deposit them in the temple in Jerusalem, and rebuild the house of God on its site." So this Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundations of the earth of the house of God in Jerusalem. From that day to the present, it has been under construction, but is not yet finished. Now, if it pleases the king, let a search be made in the royal archives of Babylon to see if King Cyrus did in fact issue a decree to rebuild this house of God in Jerusalem. Then let the king send us his decision in this matter. King Darius then issued an order, and they searched in the archives stored in the treasury at Babylon. A scroll was found in the citadel of Ecbatana in the province of Media, and this was written on it. Memorandum: in the first year of King Cyrus, the king issued a decree concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. Let the temple be rebuilt as a place to present sacrifices, and let its foundations be laid. It is to be 90 feet high and 90 feet wide, with 3 courses of large stones and 1 of timbers. The costs are to be paid by the royal treasury. Also, the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to Babylon, are to be returned to their places in the temple in Jerusalem. They are to be deposited in the house of God. Now then, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai, and you, their fellow officials of that province, stay away from there. Do not interfere with the work on this temple of God. Let the governor of the Jews and the Jewish elders rebuild this house of God on its site. Moreover, I hereby decree what you are to do for these elders of the Jews in the construction of this house of God. The expenses of these men are to be fully paid out of the royal treasury from the revenues of Trans-Euphrates, so that the work will not stop. Whatever is needed, young bulls, rams, male lambs for burnt offerings to the God of heaven, and wheat, salt, wine, and oil, as requested by the priests in Jerusalem, must be given them daily without fail, so that they may offer sacrifices pleasing to the God of heaven, and pray for the well-being of the king and his sons. Furthermore, I decree that if anyone changes this edict, a beam is to be pulled from his house, and he is to be lifted up and impaled on it. And for this crime, his house is to be made a pile of rubble. May God, who has caused his name to dwell there, overthrow any king or people who lifts a hand to change this decree or to destroy this temple in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have decreed it. Let it be carried out with diligence. Then, because of the decree King Darius had sent, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates carried it out with diligence. And there's another brief commentary. Once again, God works through a Persian ruler to implement the promised restoration. The Persian government is even supplying funds for the temple's construction and the sacrifices to be made in it. This sounds highly unusual, but it is consistent with the Persian policy of promoting polytheism throughout the empire. Interesting. Darius's decree suggests that he welcomes the goodwill of any god, including this God of heaven. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging in there with me. See you tomorrow. Have a great day.